Hello, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon from where you're tuning in. Thank you for joining us on this session today. Uh, we will start with a discussion of the topic. Please, we'll have 1 hour of topic followed by a Q&A round. But if you feel the need to ask the questions during the presentation, please do via the chat and via the Q&A. We will be attending to your questions as they come through. Joining us today, we have Luis Podesta from the team with Triple Jump. Juan Luis, if you care to give us some introduction words.
Thank you, Sebastian. Welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining this webinar session. Triple Jump brings to you this new session on cybersecurity as part of our program to recover and transition to a new normality. In this program, and specifically in this webinar, we seek to help financial service providers to strengthen its capacity to better deal with the challenges that institutions and people are facing nowadays. With this, I want to present and leave you with the capable and professional hands of Axus to deliver the session with you. Hope you enjoy it.
Thank you, Juan Luis. Well, today we'll be talking about how we can develop a solid cybersecurity strategy for 2022. As you probably have seen in the invitation, this is the executive session. We'll be having a technical session on Thursday for the ones interested. First, I wanted to introduce us, who we are. We're Axis. We're an advisory services consultancy. We focus mainly on digital transformation, cybersecurity, and learning as the capabilities of the teams who work in this department. Some of our certifications are shown here. And today we're being led by the experts Francisco Galarreta. He's the CEO of our company, and Carlos Morales. He's the lead engineer in cybersecurity operations. So I'll let you with them. I just want to review the agenda first. Today, as I told you, we have 1 hour of session. We'll start with a brief introduction on why we need to adapt as financial service providers or cybersecurity, how digital transformation has been accelerated by COVID. We've all been there. We've all had this journey. And why is cybersecurity even more relevant nowadays? We will then talk about how we can minimize the potential impact of cybersecurity incidents and how we can manage to do this in an effective way. We will end with some next steps, how we can assess our cybersecurity postures for things you can take to do right after this webinar, and then wrap up with our Q&A session. So without further ado, please, Francisco, you can lead us through this first section.
Thank you, Sebastian. Gladly. Good afternoon, everybody. Please allow me to share content, Sebastian, if you please.
You should be able to share right now.
Thank you. Please let me know when you can see the presentation deck properly on the screen.
We can see it, Francisco.
Excellent. Like Sebastian just said, we want to discuss with you the best way to build a solid cybersecurity strategy for next year from a high-level perspective. We'll be talking about this for 1 hour, and then we'll have time to discuss and have specific questions attending this matter. This discussion will be centered on the reality and needs of financial service providers and microfinancial institutions, which, as you all well know, are a little bit specific regarding what they need and what the challenge they are facing in regarding the digital transformation and the cybersecurity subjects. So, what is the need for a financial service provider to adapt their cybersecurity strategy or to embrace the need to have a cybersecurity strategy? One company that has done extensive work and research investigating the impact of digital transformation throughout several industries is Cisco. Cisco is a main technological provider playing in the fields of networking, cybersecurity, and they have been patron of many books, including one book titled Digital Vortex. In this book, the premise is that all industries need digital transformation, but not all with the same urgency. And the industries closest to the center of the vortex need this more haste than the other industries. This is pre-pandemic scenario. In this scenario, financial services was already in the top 5 and already going through a disruption. However, any industry closer to this vortex could at any moment fall into the vortex and have a disruption, so a change, a drastic change, sometimes dramatic change in the way they conduct business. And what happened? We had last year, we have an accelerator that made all industries being pulled to the center of this disruption vortex. This phenomenon happened at a global scale, and it determined what's called now the new normal. The SARS-CoV-19 did more and way faster for digital transformation than any consultancy, transformation project, innovation lab, and other tools companies have been using for years to speed up or to embrace this digital transformation. Talking with CEOs and business people in the industry, we could easily say that the COVID had speed up things in maybe 5 years regarding to what they had in plans for embracing these new technologies and these new ways of doing things. What have we learned? There has been a need for traditional microfinances and service and financial services to face the challenges of digital transformation for some time. What the pandemic did is to accelerate this process. Now, most institutions are shifting their focus from the initial damage control scenario and attending what happened in the first days and months of the pandemic. The companies focus completely on damage control and attending the operational minimum, what's being called throughout the industry as keeping the lights on. But now they are shifting from this initial status and going toward building a stronger and more resilient microfinance and financial services sector for the future. And also addressing sometimes the sometimes not so comfortable conversation that there is might be a need to change or make changes in the microfinance business model. Under a pandemic scenario, we no longer have the possibility of the sales forces reaching for clients through knocking door to door, which was sometimes a cornerstone of this business model. So what happened? We have to embrace new channels, new ways to contact the customer. We have to embrace the use of agent networks. We have to be capable of have a remote customer onboarding, have more potent and more able call center, use mobile apps. That's in the strict sense of channel. We have to be better at using our data, be more competent, use this data for better risk-based pricing, have a better credit risk management, improve the design of the products. We have to have more products to meet the customer's demand. We have to use the possibilities brought to us by fintechs and other parties that could be incorporated to our portfolio. And we have to, and this is a key issue, we have to have a more flexible core systems. And I know when we mention this, this is not easy. And this is really what we should be concerning ourselves for the next few years. But this is a reality. This is how things should be going. But let's take a step back. When I mentioned you that in the initial or in the early stages of the pandemic, or the phenomenon, what happened? In these early days, maybe you can say hours, especially in the lockdown situations, the war cry of all the organizations was connectivity. So the business areas demand IT to have all institution workforce remotely connected so they could continue working from home. And this took a tremendous effort for institutions and the IT teams that were unprepared for this scenario. In this early stages, processes and policies were left aside, and all effort focused on, for example, VPNs and other technical connectivity tools. However, as months pass, there is an urgency to attend to those aspects that were sacrificed on this early stage of the response. Now we need to ensure that information is secure, both on the remote worker end, sometimes a domestic and supervised internet access, that also links with direct connection through a VPN to the institution critical service and to the company's data center. These aspects need not just cybersecurity tools, but more robust procedures that address the new scenario and a workforce that is conscious of its role in the company's cybersecurity culture and environment. You can see here that we had maybe only technology at the beginning, but later on we should focus on processes and policies and on the layer of the remote worker itself in order to bring security and reliability to this new remote working scenario, which is going to stay. It's going to stay for a while, because even though that now the lockdowns are down and people is slowly getting back to the offices, there is still the remote working has come to stay. So we cannot turn our backs to this. And what about new digital communications? These represent, or these new communication channels present challenges both for the institutions and the client. In this new scenario, the risk of viral news represents a challenge for community managers and the institution officials. We all know that any noise, any bad attention, any problem can escalate quickly and be a widespread bad news for the company, affecting the brand, the positioning, and we need to be very focused and very clear on how and when do we respond this challenge of communication. And also, on the other hand, the risk of phishing or fraud means a problem to the customer. It can he's subject for this new types of fraud, but also for the institution itself, because when the client falls down to this bad to this crime, it also reflects on the institution itself. So it's not the institution has always have to have an eye on this. In this line, according to a recent study conducted by Upgate and the Information Security Media Group, who are security professionals working in financial services, the professionals in these areas are becoming more and more concerned about multiple areas where they feel there is a growing vulnerability. This study shows us that fraud schemes are evolving too fast to be kept up, especially in small to medium-sized institutions who lack a specialized team to deal with these types of attack. Customers and partners lack sufficient awareness to protect themselves from socially designed fraud schemes. We have to understand that this starts usually not only with bots attacking our network and trying to ping our service, but to those unaware customers who have a very weak password that is repeated throughout many channels. Let's say they have the same password for the Facebook and the LinkedIn, and they use the same password or very similar to this one in the bank account. So if your password is 12345, there is really not much muscle needed to breach it. And also, scammers have too much valid customer information at their fingertips. You can buy in the dark web databases of breaches, emails with password and hash of password that can be the foundation for this sort of attack. This is the scenario, and it's not a very pleasant one. It should be addressed, and the object of this session is to give you a glimpse, or more than a glimpse, an overview of what action should be taken and what should be considered into structuring a cybersecurity plan. Do we need a plan? Yes. Now we do need a plan to address this. The latest study showed that many employees of our institutions are not ready to avoid these cyber attacks. Only 80% are aware of the existence of cybersecurity policies. Okay, you might say this is a good number, but it also means that 1 in every 5 employees does not know the existence of the cybersecurity policy. And we need but one to make the wrong move to compromise all the data and infrastructure of the company. Only 66%, so 2 of every 3, know their responsibility as part of the cybersecurity plan, and more than half do not agree with the statement the bank provides regular cybersecurity training. These are data figures coming from retail banking. We can safely assume that in microfinance, these numbers increase or decrease in the negative way, we can say. So we have to address this issue now. How do we do this? We need a holistic cybersecurity strategy that addresses processes, the right set of processes to constantly strengthen the defenses and decrease operational load, technology, the right tools to protect new hybrid environments and provide a quick incident detection and response. And people, they build the cyber resilient culture to improve early detection and reporting and what to do when something happens. The key to cybersecurity posture and strategy is to minimize the possibility of a breach and to maximize the effectiveness of our response and minimize the data loss in the process. This is what is at stake. It's very serious. We have to address this all as operational risks. And we have to also, and Carlos will explain that later on, we have to break some fake notions we have, such as if I move my data to the cloud, I will be intrinsically safe. No, you will not be intrinsically safe. You will be with a different scenario, with different vulnerabilities that need to be addressed. What can help us in this scenario? The use of international regulations, because not only as a good practice, but also as demands of the regulation office in each country, because as an industry, there is a moving forward in this direction. The regulators are passing on new and tighter regulation to keep up with the demands of this new scenario. We have GDPR, we have PCI for those that work with credit card industries, and around these regulations, all the regulators in each country are strengthening their policies, are building up their policies, and also making sure that the financial institutions in their environment step up to meet these new challenges. So we have to see this regulation not only as requirements, but as tools to help us build a most robust posture, a most robust cybersecurity strategy. So from this point, I will want to leave you with Carlos for the more specific part of the webinar.
you, Francisco. Okay, hope everybody can see my screen. Well, we will talk about how to minimize the potential impact of a cybersecurity incident. According to IBM, each compromised personal identifier information has a cost of $160 to $180 per register. And you can see that the average number of records is about 1,000 to 100,000 records. So you can see you can calculate the average lost for every compromise. It's very interesting to realize that the average time to identify and detect a data breach is around 287 days. That's a lot. That's more than 9 months. So it means that you will have a compromise, and after 9 months, in average, you will realize that you had that loss. So the economical losses, the operation downtime, the decreased productivity, and other impacts that these losses can have to your business is very high. Sometimes could be a disaster. So we have a real problem here that can cost many losses, and well, not a very optimistic scenario here.
And if you let me add to this list, Carlos, there is one hidden cost that is not usually measured, but is very present, which is the reputational loss. Because when you suffer a breach, your business will resent it because of a bad word of mouth.
Absolutely, and it's very hard to measure the reputational cost, and sometimes it could be the biggest loss. We have a couple of examples here. Jana is a small finance bank in India, and that's exactly what you were telling, Francisco, about that. Maybe this bank saw that they were sure when working on the cloud, but they had an unprotected database that wasn't the cloud, but it was without a protection, without a password to protect it. So it was exposed for several days, and when the security analyst found it, they didn't really know how much time the exposition lasted. So the bank said that one of their vendors loaded the data on a server without protection, but there were millions of financial records that were exposed to public. We don't know exactly if how much did it cost to this finance service provider, but we are clear that it was not protected just for the fact of being in the cloud. We have the event in South Africa in Experian, where a threat actor convinced a staff member to relinquish sensitive internal data. 24 million customers, 800,000 businesses were impacted. They say that at first the stolen information was not sensitive, but later it was discovered that the database included PII, personal identifier information. So it was a big breach, and well, we have how easy it was to attain this attack just by talking with a staff member. So we see the cloud is not safe. People are a very weak link in the chain, so we have to be very aware of this.
On this subject, and now that you mention experience, I also want to bring a very well-known case, which is the Equifax. And in this case, we know now after many studies and reporting on this, that the cause of the breach was the use of open software and open libraries in their products, in their technological products, which means that the danger for this breach is not only, and is also a new vector that should be addressed, that the employees are being bribed to let sensitive information fall into the wrong hands, but also just pure and simple omission or the use of not strict policies in what to use when you program things. So we have to take that into consideration. The programmer or the insider could be passive or active. I don't know if that makes sense with that, but he might be actively putting the company in risk, or it can be done through omission.
Yes. And does it matter that we take some measures to or countermeasures to mitigate the risk of an attack, of a loss? Well, according to IBM, organizations that deployed automated solutions with artificial intelligence for detection and response had 79% less losses than those that didn't have it, these kind of countermeasures. If you apply a zero trust approach on the architecture design, you will have in average 42% less losses. Organizations who had compliance just with having compliance with regulations have 40% less losses. And organizations who had a fully operational incident response team, so 32% less losses. So the compliance with the regulations, to have a good incident response team, zero trust approach, artificial intelligence really having results, are really having better better performance in security terms than organizations that don't have these measures. We have talked about some standards. These are very well known. In the last years, NIST cybersecurity framework has become very popular. It was designed initially for critical infrastructure, but nowadays we are using it for every kind of organization because it's for easiness of appliance, for it's easy to understand. We have ISO 27000. We have been working with this standard for decades, but it continues to be a good guide for improving our security posture. PCI DSS for credit and debit cards, NIST 853 for privacy, and CIS cybersecurity controls as a very small but very direct way to implement controls in our organization. We have every one of these frameworks and others that exist in the market have a specific overview in security, but they are very good as roadmaps that can guide your businesses into improving your security posture. They are not contradicting. On the contrary, they are complementary, or they are different views of the same environment. Talking about NIST cybersecurity framework in particular, they give us a view of security in the point of view of a incident response team. I can say you begin by identifying what you have to protect. Of course, you can protect. If you don't know, you can protect what you don't know. So you have to know what are your assets, what are your risks, in order to protect them. Then you can proceed to protect your assets, and of course you have to understand your organization to establish these measures. You have to know where to invest most, and what are your most valued assets to invest most on them, of course. And then you have mechanism. You have to have mechanism to detect the attacks, to detect the breaches, to detect those incidents that can affect and impact your business. Then you proceed, when an attack is detected, you proceed to respond to, hopefully you will detect the incident even before it happens. When you see that there are indicators of precursors of compromise, and you can stop it before. The ideal is that you can stop them before they happen. But even if they are happening, you have to respond as soon as possible to minimize the impact on the business. And then you have to recover from that damage, from that operational stop. So you have the this cycle that shows you how to deal with security from the point of view of a incident response team, I can say. But how can you be sure that you are mature in your practice, in your cybersecurity practice? Well, you have 3 pillars that are people, technology, and processes. You have your technical team that will do the configurations of the security operations, but of course you have to have your users with safe behavior, and they will contribute with early reports and avoiding incidents. There are several stages of maturity for people, for users, for final users. At first, you have to avoid them to click on the wrong link. If they are aware that are malicious emails, that they don't have to click on any software, on any document attached to an email. Well, you have a certain level of maturity, but even more important is that they report those threats to your security team. If you have your people informing you about those malicious emails, those anomaly behaviors on the systems, and the vulnerabilities that they found, then you can say that your people is well aware of security threats. Then we have, of course, the technologies. The technologies help people to detect, to respond, to protect the assets, your assets, and they will provide enhanced capabilities. Nowadays, we have artificial intelligence, machine learning to detect and react more effective to the threats. And of course, the processes. People and technologies don't work well if you don't have the right processes, the activities to be performed in different scenarios, including active configuration of technologies, testing the procedures, definition of key roles and executions. Testing is a fundamental step in attaining the maturity in cybersecurity. If you have a plan for responding incidents, or a plan for continuity business or business continuity, sorry, that is very good. But if you have tested those plans, you can say that you are mature in your process, because it must be a cycle of testing and improving, and that way you will have the assurance that your plans really work, because you can write most of the time, the first time that you write a plan, that plan won't work in a real scenario. It won't work well the first time. So you have to test it, and you will find every time you will find ways to improve it, and getting more mature in your cybersecurity posture.
Carlos, just before continuing, we have a question here from Sulfikar. He's sharing with us that he has observed possible weaknesses in Pakistan when managing cybersecurity. Some examples being asset management, the prioritization of initiatives, focus on protection over detection to prevent, just as you were saying, lack of security resources, and lack of awareness. He wants to know, how can institutions prevent these risks, and what should be the role of senior management and regulators to cover these gaps?
Well, senior management must show compromise with commitment. Sorry, must show commitment to cybersecurity, and it is fundamental, because cybersecurity spreads on all organizations, and the commitment from the management is fundamental for allowing every user to know that this is a strategy, not only an opinion or some partial strategy, but an organization strategy.
I would like to round up something on that point too, also, Carlos, and is that senior management involvement ensure better access to budget for the initiatives, and also we have a saying in Spanish. I don't know if there is an equivalent in English or in other languages. It's said that the owner's eye makes the crop grow. So if you have the top management on top of things will run smoother and easier than if they don't. So yes, they need to be involved. They need to be on top of things. One easy way to test this is that when we conduct our plans for clients for awareness, let's say, we have so much more impact on the organization when we use the actual leaders of the organization, the CEO, the CFO, the credit manager giving the message in the videos throughout the organization than when we use an actor. The message is the same. The results are not the same, because it's quite different to receive it for, let's say, an actor that can be me, that means nothing to the workforce, than to have the guy that is responsible for your paycheck giving you the same message. I just wanted to add this.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, let's talk about continuity planning. As you know, cybersecurity deals with integrity, confidentiality, and also with availability. The continuing of the business is what we strive for, and we should not ask ourselves about if we will have an incident, but we know by sure that we will have an incident. So the question is, when will it happen? Incidents could be very, very different, very unexpected. We have here of a representation of an earthquake, of a fire, of a virus. So we have several threats from many different sources, and what we have to be is to be prepared for general scenarios, and have to plan and to prepare to face these threats. How do we do that? We begin with a business impact analysis, which is a procedure that allows us to discover what are our most urgent processes, the processes that must be recovered first, because they have more impact on time when they are stopped. So with the business impact analysis, we will find what are the processes that must be recovered first. Then we have to make a risk assessment to estimate the probability of the occurrence of these scenarios. After that, we have to make a selection of the strategy. How, if I say that my most urgent process must be recovered in at least 4 hours, to give an example, how can I get that? How can I recover that process in just 4 hours? Maybe for me it will be difficult, but I have to realize how to get that time for the recovery in the case of an incident. So we have to make a strategy, and the strategy will be very different if I say, no, I have to recover that process in 1 hour, or if I say, no, that process cannot be stopped at all. So the strategies for attaining that goal is very different in every case. If I want to recover in less time, I have to invest more and be more prepared in the and plan for different scenarios, and it will give me different strategies to select. There is a strategy also to mitigate, to respond, to manage the impact that business interruption will have, in a strategy to stabilize, continue to recover, to protect my critical activities, and assess the capabilities of third parties and providers. we have to also mention here that we have also, while we are responding to an incident, we must not forget that there are other processes, other sensitive processes, and we must take care of those processes at the same time. I know it's not easy, but many attacks have leveraged that the IT team, the IT response team, was very focused on an incident, and they were taking advantage, attacking another area, another process, and having more easily generate losses to the organization, because the IT team was focused just on one process. So we have to have a strategy to recover our most urgent processes, but we have always to be careful about what is happening on other processes as well. Why do we need to select a continuity strategy? Well, we have a list of legal, regulatory, and contractual obligations. We have the expectations of our stakeholders, the objectives of the organizations, the results from the business impact analysis and risk assessment, and of course, objectives to achieve continuity. What are some continuity strategies? Well, we can transfer the activity. If this process is not our core, but we need it to be recovered quickly, we can transfer the activity to a specialized third party, to a provider. For example, I do need a good technology platform, so I can rely it on a data center provider in order to have a specialized team to maintain this the continuity of this process, and I can be then focused on my main business. I can relocate sources. I can generate an alternative processes and capacity. I can substitute some capabilities, or I can develop as a temporal solution for some processes. The continuity plan must include communication and recovery objectives. Communication is fundamental in order to maintain the continuity of our business. Internal communications, external communications with the stakeholders. Internal, my people, my personnel have to know what to do. Who are the key personnel that must continue the main processes? They will be. They have to be very aware of the continuity plans and what to do in the case of an incident. There must be a communication with the stakeholders. They must be aware what is happening in a transparent way, but also in a realistic way. The communications between and the help that we can receive from suppliers, from the organizations on our same business, it could be very, very useful for overcoming the incidents. Well, we have to be sure that the media will be available, facilitate communication with emergency teams that protect the safety of people, ensure the interoperability of multiple organizations, and record the vital information. What are the the recovery objectives? Activate the recovery site, for example, could be a good alternative. The transfer to the recovery and logistics centers, the equipment we need, financial and administrative procedures, telecommunications recovery, data recovery, recovery of services and systems, and recovery procedure for each system. We need to work hand in hand with the people in our organization, especially with users. They say that phishing attacks were the second costliest type of attacks. It's one of the most used social engineering attacks. On 2020, FBI reported an increase of phishing by 11 times. Compromised credentials are the cause of 20% of data breaches. Criminal organizations have been offering up to 10% of the provided money to users that help with the attacks. So we see that criminals have an organization, they are maturing their business, and it's not just one organization that makes all the work. Now they are distributing the work. They have other local organizations that help them to spread the ransomware, to spread phishing attacks. So even as you can see, compromising internal people, insiders, in order to get an easiest way to intrude into the company. Users, they say, are the weakest point if they not have a good awareness program. The user must be aware of the risk. They have to know that they have not to click every link, every interesting or urgent mail that can download raw files into your organization. The reporting of incidents is key to activating any contingency plans and avoiding economic losses. The cybersecurity awareness programs need to be periodical and continuous because people forget. It's difficult to change people's behavior. So you have to insist. You have to be periodical, to have an awareness program that every time, every year, every semester, to help people understand the threats and the ways to avoid it. We have many social engineering attacks. Here we have some examples. Phishing, a mail that can attain many people, and now they usually use trending topics to catch the eye of the user and to urge them to click on the links. They work in a percentage basis, in a statistical basis. They say, well, I will send 100,000 emails, and maybe 2% of people will click on the link. So that's the way these kind of attacks work. But we have also spear phishing, which is directly to some people. So the mails are more difficult to identify. The malicious mails are more difficult to identify because they know you, they know your acquaintances, what do you like, and they send an email especially configured to attract you, to to make you think that this is a real email, but it's a malicious one. Phishing, when the social engineering attack comes from a telephonic call or even from SMS and many other way of communications, even using other social media networks. Nowadays, phishing emails have appealing topics and are very effective if the users are not aware of the risks. So they have trending topics like COVID, like superstar, or like any news in the media. They profit in order to make your users click on the links. Of course, this applies not only to email communications, but to text, calls, and any kind of communication available to your users. So, creating a cybersecurity culture with regular training is key to avoid incidents. Awareness trainings and workshops could be a way to train your people. Awareness mailings and communication, also a regular way to catch their eye and make them think about the threats and the ways to avoid them. Refresh the reporting procedures to make them conscious of the ways of report the incidents, report the vulnerabilities, engage the management team, and make what we call the ethical phishing tests. The ethical phishing test is to send the users by an ethical hacker, we can say, to send mails to the users that have all the characteristics of a phishing, and to see how many users click on the link. So if your users are well prepared, there will be only a small percentage of users that click on that link. Ideally, nobody will click on those links. These tests will show us how many people click on the link, but even more important, how many people report that phishing, that phish email, no? or ethical phish email. So ideally, you will have a statistic of a very small number, ideally 0% of users that click on that email, and ideally a big percentage of users that will report that suspicious email. These are the most effective ways to attain the awareness of people because they test the change on behavior, not only the theoretical knowledge of what they have to do, but they test if the behavior of the people has changed. Well, what are the next steps? Define where you are and where you need to go. You need to understand how you are doing right now in order to set your goals, to say where are we, what is the roadmap in order to improve your security posture. There is some kits, for example, this CISA Cybersecurity Evaluation Toolkit that can help you in assess your cybersecurity posture. Of course, be sure to download it from the official website and not from an email. Recommendations: well, you can use cybersecurity specialists, IT professionals that can help your organization in order to improve your cybersecurity posture. And you can assess your maturity using, for example, the CMMC model in order to know what is your position. This model, this maturity model, has 5 levels. The level 1, for example, is when you have some cybersecurity practice, but it is not formalized. It's performed as needed. You don't have this organization that doesn't have written procedures, so it's very informal. In the level 2, it's called documented because you have policies and other documentation that allows replicability, that sets responsibilities. But when you have the level 3, you can call it managed because there's action plans that includes mission, goals, resources, training, and ideally many organizations search this state as the goal for their organizations because it's an attainable goal. It's not you don't need too many investments. You have to make an effort, of course, but it's a good maturity stage. There are even more advanced stages, like levels, like review it, when you have KPIs, when you have indicators of your performance on cybersecurity, or of indicators of the risk of your organization, and optimizing when you have technological capabilities to automate management and to involve in a continuous improvement of your cybersecurity system. Of course, you have to assess results and mitigate the gaps, and ideally you will have a list of the different domains of cybersecurity. For example, access control, access management, audit and accountability, awareness. And if you find the gaps, you know where you have to improve more urgently, where you have to invest more invest in money, in time, in people, and it is better attained with the help of professional security professionals in order to know where is your main gaps. Finally, you have to prioritize and define an action plan. After identifying the impacts that can attain your business, you have to develop a cyber risk assessment, then develop a contingency plan, and perform tests of the developed plan. So, impact analysis, cyber risks, contingency plan, and testing of that contingency plan. All with an awareness training program and the deploying of new cybersecurity tools. That can be the general roadmap of improving your cybersecurity posture and your business continuity planning. Okay, so that's what we were trying to bring to you today. So if you have some more questions and questions.
Thank you, Carlos. We do have one question here. On the topic of incident response, when you have attacks to multiple institutions on a short period of time, the question is, how can an institution collaborate with other institutions? how they can share and gather cyber threats intelligence in a timely manner. What can they do in that situations?
Okay. If they are in the moment of when the incident is happening, the best way is to set a cyber room, a cybersecurity war room, and then communications in order to share what is happening, what are the ways the attacker is using, and to share the measures that are having good results. If it is if they're still in the preparation step, you can share information with the help of well, in a manual way, with the help of bulletins, organizations that group many similar organizations, and then you can share via these organizations cyber intelligence knowledge. For example, there are some organizations like ISAC. ISAC are organizations that share threat information, threat indicators, and they can be, if you are part of these organizations, you will receive this cyber intelligence. Also, if you have some providers, the cybersecurity suppliers have also ways to give you written cyber intelligence, or also via automated ways to directly to your security devices. And with similar organizations, the best way is to set formal and periodic ways of sharing information, maybe with the help of an intermediary, as I said, ISAC or a local institution that can help the sharing of information.
Thank you, Carlos. If there is any further questions, please, you can use the chat, Q&A. Also, I want to remind you that this session has been recorded, so it will be sent to you at the ending of the session, so you can review the information. And just before we end up, I will appreciate if you can help us with a couple of minutes with the final questions for giving us feedback of the session. Thank you for your presence. If there's no further questions, you have a really good afternoon. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you very much.